Before we begin, a word of care for those watching. This conversation goes to the edges of human experience. We'll be speaking openly about abduction, about trauma, about medical experiences, and non-ordinary reality, the kind of things most people are never asked to believe, let alone live through. Some of what my guest shares may be difficult to hear. I will hold this conversation with respect and care, and we won't dwell on the graphic parts. But if you're sensitive to these themes, please look after yourself as you listen and step away if you need to. Welcome, dear friends, brothers and sisters of Earth and beyond. My guest today is someone I have known and loved for nearly 10 years. Her name is Jeanette Wayne. Though every patient she has ever helped, everyone who knows her as the medicine woman she truly is, calls her Dr. Wayne. And she is a doctor in every way that matters. A healer, a lifesaver, a problem solver, the founder of the Joy Clinic, and one of the most gifted medical intuitives I have ever encountered. Deeply psychic, profoundly spiritual, and operating quite naturally across dimensions. I'll say this part plainly because Jeanette lives by it. Some years ago, she stepped away from the bureaucracy of belonging to a medical society, a sovereign choice to leave the officialdom behind and simply do the work. So while she may hold no title on a certificate in a drawer somewhere, to the countless souls she has healed, she is and always will be Dr. Wayne. And she is a lifelong contactee and abductee, an experiencer hundreds upon hundreds of times over. I want to say that plainly right at the start because Jeanette has spent a lifetime carrying something that most of the world isn't ready to look at. Today, we're going to look at it, not with fear, but with courage, with clarity, and with love. Because here is what makes Jeanette extraordinary. She has not been broken by what she's endured. She has been forged by it. And she has turned it into a mission to reach the many, many others living through these same experiences, often without even knowing it, often with no one to turn to, and no one who believes them. If that is you, or if some part of this stirs a recognition you can't quite explain, then this conversation is for you. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And you are not without help. So I ask you to open your heart, set aside the need to make it all make sense, and simply listen. What Jeanette carries is rare. What she offers is rarer still. And if you too are enduring these same kinds of experiences, know this: Dr. Jeanette is here to offer not only real hope, but a practical, grounded path forward, a way to understand what is happening to you and begin to meet it and beyond. Dr. Jeanette Wayne, my friend, my sister on this path, thank you for being here. It is an honor.
It's a total pleasure. Thank you.
Mm. So, we've known each other for the better part of 10 years now, and I've loved you since the moment I laid eyes on you.
You too.
How would you like to introduce yourself to our audience in your own words?
I usually recommend that I first just say my name. I'm Jeanette Wayne, and then I say I'm also a medical intuitive and a spiritual healer and a formerly licensed doctor of traditional Chinese medicine with full training and nursing training. Um, and that a lot of people say that what I do is stronger than anything they've ever experienced, but that everyone's individual experience is different, and that if you're open, I can do more for you.
That's fascinating. And we're going to speak more about your multidimensionality and how you apply your ability to see multidimensionally to the healing practices. But let's go back to the beginning. So, what made you want to become a healer?
I was already doing it my whole life. When I was a child, I would go sit, I'd feel like, oh, it's time now. And I would go sit in the corner and go into a deep meditation, cross-legged, sitting on a wooden chair facing a corner to then move out of the dimension I was in into where I was supposed to go. And I would get visuals of people and their situations and feel all of their feelings as if I was a person in the room with them while they're having conversations and get a sense of everything. And I would see black in their body and I would just pull it out. And I would just doing it without even deciding to as a youth. Um, and then sometimes on occasion, years later, I would even meet that person or hear about them, but not frequently. And it helped me to understand that energy just goes where it needs to. I would also climb the pine tree in our front yard and go up to the very top of it and stick the needles of the pine into my body and then go into deep meditations and receive information, knowledge, and teachings. I would also astral travel a lot when I was sleeping and have dreams of going and healing people, and also feel like I was being visited by medicine people and having my body worked on.
Well,
And so it's kind of been natural. And then over the years, people have always spent time with me when they needed to learn things, asked me a lot of questions, since as long as I can remember, actually. Walking home from school with my friends, I would be answering questions the whole way home. In high school, people called me Dr. J because I would fix someone's knee that they couldn't walk on, or clear someone's depression so they could go off their medication, or um, teach people to not sexual assault each other in high school, for example. So there would always be occurrences around me happening, and I was like working other retail jobs and even managing retail places and finding that there'd be eventually, after I was there for a little bit, there would be lineups of people asking for questions so much that I couldn't get my work done. And the person would say, like the manager or whoever was there would say, you need to stop giving people information. And I say, but they're asking questions, and also, have you checked my sales, because they're higher than anyone else's. And they're like, how do you know that? I said, because I ask people what they need, and I find them what they need. And so and I said, and actually, maybe you should check that since I've been here, what your sales have been, and give me a bonus for a percentage of that. And, because, if you're going to give me a hard time, then like, go take a look at it. And they would come back, even very kindly apologizing and giving me a bonus, or raising my pay. So I started working in places where they sold natural medicines and natural cosmetics so that I could mitigate some of the tension of people coming to me and asking me for what do I do for breast cancer or for hair loss or these things. Um, so it's happening all the time, and eventually got to the point. Well, I've already been studying. I already had been studying nonstop in high school. They'd say, she's the one that's always studying. She doesn't go do extracurricular stuff. She's always has her nose in a book, and it got to the point where I felt like I couldn't get enough information from the textbooks I could find in our society. And so I started looking for teachers for meditation and for traditional Chinese medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And found that and decided to do traditional Chinese medicine because I had already almost started taking psychology in university, but what happened is that when I started seeing the dogma and human limitations around it and the labels, I started getting itchy. And the misogynistic aspect started getting really itchy, and I was like, okay, that's not for me right now. Maybe if this evolves in another 20, 30 years, I might be interested, but not right now. I don't want to be absorbing this information. It will tarnish me. And I also was considering naturopathic, but because of my studies, I already had all the knowledge from what they would be teaching pretty much. And so I went the direction of traditional Chinese medicine because it was a different body of knowledge that I could access to assist people. What was happening is the first for people that were coming to me professionally as a client, I would put my hands around their body energy field and I would feel this certain feeling or emotion over a certain spot. So I'd be going like this over a certain spot and I'd be like, whoa, I'd get hit with all these emotions as I was clearing their energy field. And I would started cross-referencing these spots in a book of acupuncture. And it would be exact. The same area for the same symptoms. And I was like, I have to learn this. And I looked it up and it said it would take a lifetime to understand. And I was like, well, like, why not start? I'm already starting, you know? So I found a very good teacher, Dr. David Lam, who's also a naturopath, who's a doctor from China and also a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine here. He got an award for being one of the top 150 in the world. He's very good, and he was a very good teacher, and he gave me very firm training to the point that the other students were like, what, like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, he's making sure I know. Not being firm to be bullying. He's making sure I know. He's investing energy in me, and I appreciate it. And I remember one time I was sitting in his class and I was yawning and I was so tired. And it was because I had gone off sugar for a year and a half. And I was at the end of that year and a half, and he went into the other room and he brought in a box of raw sugar and he slammed it on the desk in front of me. And he's like, sugar is a lung energy tonic. Sorry, bad Chinese impression. No offense to anyone. But it had so much intensity and the linguistics of his culture and his teaching all coming through at once. And he's just like, bam, like, don't forget this. And it made me understand that I was making my lungs deficient by avoiding sugars too much. And so I started doing more research, and I learned that we need 8 to 10 different types of sugars to, combined with oxygen to help fluid flow in between the cells.
Wow.
And that opened my mind up because already in chemistry years earlier, I'd heard about, some chemists doing research and just putting tablespoons of sugar in their water when they were studying because how much it increases ATP.
Oh, wow.
So, At the same time, I had really intense sugar cravings. So what I did is I increased the natural sugars and the slow burning sugars, like apple butter and maple syrup, and unprocessed organic cane sugar. I increased those things, dates, natural fruit sugars, instead of, and coupling it with some nut butters and things like that to slow down the speed of absorption instead of cutting out the sugar. And also, I started taking traditional Chinese herbal formulas for my organs, and my relationship to sugar changed. I was no longer craving it. The formula Gui Yuan completely balanced my need for sugar because it increased my organ function, and it eventually led to me completing the studies of a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, and also taking extra studies in etiology through his teaching and his organization, and that gave me the beginning of a foundation where I can continue to study, but it was enough that I could start to give very in-depth care to people. And that, coupled with the energy healing, meant very extremely high success rate,
Mhm.
to the point that after an overview of my work for about 10 years, I did a summary of the percentage of deaths on average in society from Western cancer treatment, with a very low success rate compared to my failure rate, and they were almost exactly opposite.
Wow.
And at that point, I was like, okay, I have to not feel guilty about the few failures I've had and focus on the big picture, that I'm moving forward. I'm helping to educate people in society. I'm encouraging people to make more ethical and environmental choices. And I'm learning that, primarily a vegan organic diet is best for everything, for the environment, for people's well-being. And then also to have an open space where people can make the change gradually. So it's a lifestyle change, that they step away from the processed foods and the chemicals, because they're very addicting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just to clarify, you mentioned that you studied etiology. I'm not sure what that is, and I'm sure some of our
There's
audience.
special disease studies in traditional Chinese medicine that
Ah,
I
okay.
took. So that so like gynecology was one of them. So that I had more than the average amount of studies. The way that he offered his programs is he wanted to form the best doctors, so he offered extra studies, and I'm quite grateful to have had that experience.
Oh yeah, for sure. So just to clarify, and I did mention when you were in the waiting room waiting to join us, that you've stepped away from paying the yearly astronomical, ridiculous fee to be able to technically call yourself a doctor.
Mhm.
However, of course, you have the knowledge and you've been practicing for over 30 years. Do you want to just clarify that?
Yeah, for a while I was able to call myself a doctor by, like, legally, and as far as insurance operated for people, that was beneficial. But it got to the point where, when the government regulations went through in Ontario, the fees were, I figured out what it was going to cost me, about 5,000 a year just to get a license that year. And I was like, that, for insurance, for the tests and things that I would have to go through for retesting, and the monthly fees or your annual fees, and the insurance I would have to buy. When I totaled up the amount that it would cost me per year, while I was comparing my requirements for funding for supporting people who couldn't afford care or afford herbs and supplements to save their life, which I would fund when I could, I just couldn't maintain it without more funding in a healthy way.
Hmm.
And so I decided to just not call myself a doctor anymore. And then all that problem would go away and I could put that 5,000 somewhere better instead. And I did that.
Well, yeah, that is well, as long as I've known you, I have seen you time and time again uh give of yourself selflessly, and you've never turned anyone away. In fact, y the amount of people that you help consistently is staggering, and that's another reason why I love you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor to have people come to me and allow me to give them that support and share in their healing process in
Mhm.
situations where there would normally be no progress for that individual due to their financial situation
Mm.
or due to their extreme illness that was mystical or extremely complex or unfound answer situation.
Perfect segue. Let's go into that. A little bit about the interdimensionality and also about the fact that I have known you to have returned the health of people that the traditional, who have turned away. And I'm going to leave it to you to give some examples, but I do recall one young man who was in a car accident and had no mobility, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, I'll let you take the lead on that.
Well, I won't mention names so that I'm not disclosing any personal information for these lovely individuals, but
Okay.
I will say that I have had numerous situations come to me that I would consider a miracle occurred and that increased their well-being, and then there's been situations where it was a lot of hard work and completely worth it. On both my part and the part of the person.
Mm.
So however it needed to happen, it happened. And that's part of the fun of the adventure in life. If I held just one solid belief, then I would be limiting other situations. Um, so what I've seen is that, for example, someone who was told that they had to have their limb amputated in certain circumstances, it could be regained enough function that it would work as well as a new amputated arm with a retrofitting, minus all the learning curve, minus all the discomfort from the fittings rubbing, etc. Now, this doesn't mean that could be for everyone, but in this particular situation that you mentioned, he was able to use his arm and even operate machinery after.
Mm.
And that took him a tremendous amount of work and effort, and also inner discipline to not be affected by the limiting beliefs of the medical system, because that's very challenging to be told you have to get your arm removed and that you'll never be able to use it again, and then to believe that you can is very challenging sometimes. Also, I've had people come with inoperable conditions. For example, one woman came to see me and her ear was hanging off. It was detached halfway, if not more, and she had staph infections and other infections that were stopping it from being able to be operated on. And I told her, if you follow my instructions, I'll be able to get your ear to reattach. And over time, it did. And that was incredible to experience. Other situations be tumors disappearing right under my hand, or right off of the X-ray or the ultrasound or the CAT scan. People, one child that I got to work on, I got to extend his life by about a year and a half.
Mm.
Um, I went to go volunteer some services for him that actually one of my clients funded, the flight there, which made it way easier for me to go because I was like, maybe I just won't buy groceries this month and I'll go, and they a client funded it. And I worked out something where I just gave them some extra sessions so it wouldn't deplete them too much. And wonderfully, in that situation, I arrived and crawled into the bed next to the young boy, even though I was warned that I may never be able to have children or, all kinds of things from the amount of radiation he was radiating. I was like, no, this is meant to happen today. I'm going to be fine. He's going to get better.
Mm.
And I could feel it because I was getting all kinds of signs to go and all kinds of signs to connect with this person. And signs aren't things I normally look for, but when they're occurring and you're consciously aware of them, they're undeniable.
Mm.
So I was getting experiences of like just sitting out and having a tea and feeling like my crown chakra opened up. Well, you could say crown chakra, top of my head opened up, and like energy was channeling into my body with information about how to maneuver energy in his body to get this to shift. And I did work on him, and I said within 2 weeks he'll be up and running around. And within a short period of time, I got a message from the family saying that he was riding his bike up and down the hall in the hospital and eventually got discharged.
Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I think if we just spoke for another 10 hours, you would have an endless list of people you could tell me that you assisted in such a miraculous way. So I want to ask you, you mentioned that you felt like the Crown Energy Center in your, thank you for, I'm sensitive to the word chakra, right? There's nothing wrong with chakras, everybody. They're
Isn't the
they're actually
communication?
energy centers. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
energy centers which have overlays, but we're not going to go there right now. But thank you
yeah.
for saying that. So when you said that crown area on your head
The whole
opened up
top
and
of
you were
my
getting,
head just felt
yeah,
like a gateway of opening for a big channel of light coming in that was
amazing.
violet.
Wow. So where do you think that energy is coming from? Are you working directly with source? Are you working with healers in spirit? Are you working with ETs or all of the above?
I would say all of the above, but my defining line is that it has to be for the good of all everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that does not mean for the good of people doing wrongdoing or other species or energy bodies or entities doing wrongdoing. It means the good of all everywhere in actual terms.
Right.
Like, and I'm not talking about good and bad like Western thinking. I'm talking about the expanded version, including the yin and yang and society and the whole evolution of humanity and all of the cosmos and all the multi universes and all the multi dimensions. And sometimes I can pull some strings in those areas too,
Mm.
because the rules there are different.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I understand there's a North American Indian saying, I believe it's Cherokee, and they say that if it isn't good for everyone, it isn't good.
That's right. I, I agree.
So, of course, I want to get into the more intense aspects of what we're going to talk about today. But again, I believe that this area of the multidimensionality and how you're able to um, negotiate your way through that and actually alter those realities for the highest and greatest good of those who come to you is a one in a gazillion skill. And I believe that's personally, I believe that's part of the reason why you're being targeted, but we're going to go there later. So, you mentioned that you, as a child, I love that. You told me this privately that you would stick pine needles, and so you were doing acupuncture on yourself as a child, right? So,
Or you could call it acupuncture. But yeah, it was like a form of tuning myself because I had allergies to the tree, and the tree kind of communicated to me, um, these are the areas that my medicine could go into and help you. And so I did it. I
mm,
questioned it, but I was like, well, how much is that going to hurt me? And I tried it, and it went in, and
wow.
it helped me to learn about how to get something that could literally crumble as you push it in to go in by shifting the energy and being open to that happening
Oh,
as well, because it's a very delicate thing to put a pine needle into your tissues deep,
yeah.
you know, especially fresh ones.
Well, yeah, and not to be tried at home, anybody, right? This is strictly for
No, it may result in infection if you don't know what you're doing or how to monitor infections. Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this brings me again to this notion of the interdimensionality, and I want to go back. I wanted to underscore that with the fact that you were doing this, you were communicating with trees who I've recently learned are they are the ascended masters of this yuga, right? So very rightly so, you're learning from the greatest masters that we have around us.
Mhm.
And this was as a child. So take us through we've gone through the development of the of how you got into the to become a Chinese medical doctor, etc., and to be certified in so many other different modalities. But take us now through the evolution of that multidimensional discovery that began as a child.
Well, with all of this happening, I started to realize that we all do it to a certain extent, but a lot of people aren't aware of it because, for example, one day I was walking down the street with a friend of mine after school in elementary school. I had moved from Regina to London, Ontario, and I was walking home with a friend, and she was a lovely person. Nothing against her, that she was freaked out by the information
Mm.
because it's pretty normal human response. Um, I have fond memories of spending time with her, and she was saying to me one day, like, "Why do you look so tired?" And I was like, "Well, I was doing work last night, you know." Um, she was like, "Work? You're underage. What are you talking about?" I was like, where you go and you do healing on people, and you may have conversations with UFOs, and um, you take away dark energy, and you feel out disease and make it change and remove suffering and work with light and blah. And she would look at me, and abruptly stopped talking to me.
Yeah.
And so that led me to be like, and also one other experience I remember, when I was young, I was getting sick often. My mom said, "What's going on with you? Like, why are you getting sick often?" And I was like, hmm. And I realized that part of me might have been absorbing some of the energy and keeping it. And so
Mm.
I learned how to clear that, and I got healthier. I was less sick after that. Um, Other experiences would be things like seeing someone in a parking lot when I was sitting in a parking lot with my mother. She had just bought groceries and we're sitting in the car, and I'd see someone walk by, and she's like, "What's going on?" And the car would sometimes get this like mist all of a sudden in it because my temperature would go up and my hands would burn, and it'd be like, okay, I'm like, there's energy for that person. And I'd be like, if I don't talk to that person, that person might die. And I was like, okay, well then if I can't talk to them, I have to like move energy so it doesn't happen, because
Mm.
they're not meant to. It's an accident. So I was doing accident prevention also at a very young age. Um, and I was like, well, I need to do this more often. And it got to the point where, I told you, jobs were essentially getting in the way of what was happening around me. And even if I would take a vacation somewhere, when I was doing work later and I was running a full practice and I was, training other people, I would have a situation happen where I would go on vacation and eventually people would come to me and say, um, for example, uh, how, what do you do for this? Or do you know anything for this? Without me really, saying like, let's book an appointment or whatever, they would just come up to me and ask me. And, even strangers right on the beach.
Mm.
And I was like, they're just like, they just know
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm.
I'm someone that they need to talk to.
Mm. Mm.
And pardon me, I had to plug my phone in
Okay, no worries. Technology.
and just balance the battery. There we go.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so so with that, went through a series of practices and disciplines to be able to embody that energy. And it was like a silent code, or receiving different transmissions and feeling different ways that I would get intuitions of what to do. Some of it would be memories from past lifetimes. Some of it would be that I was getting what I would call like a download of information. Like as my spirit was expanding and my body was clearing out past life traumas and the programming that I was receiving, and my vibration would increase, I would start to pick up on information that I needed to give to others, or information that I needed to assist myself in the process of serving others. At one point, I decided to fully surrender to a path of service. I got on my knees, put
Mm.
my hands in front of me, and it was just like, that's it. Um, the web's holding me up. The universe birthed me, so why fight it?
Mm.
And just fully surrendered to a path of service. Now, that did not mean that I was neglecting myself. In fact, my care dramatically increased as much as my care to others being provided increased.
That's
Um,
Yeah, I know you for that, and you schooled me real good, as we say last week, in the merits of self-care and what that actually means. So, I mean, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, for me, there are many things that I've learned along the way that are more effective. And so I tried to provide summary notes of that to my clients, because when they're coming in, they have their own list of requests and things that they need. But also, I want them to receive the benefit of all of my years of knowledge, not just for their specific condition, but for their daily quality of life, and to
Mm.
ensure that their well being increases and lasts throughout their lifetime instead of crumbling.
Mm.
And so there's things that I do. For example, I take a blend of smoothies and supplements. I take tinctures 1 to 3 times a day, sometimes more. I take traditional Chinese herbal formula blends regularly. I've gone off and on them for like years at a time. I take some more processed supplements or refined supplements for extreme situations. Um, I do mantras. I do non-denominational prayers. Also, one other thing I should mention is that I do remember one of my main past lifetimes, being a monk meditating in a cave with a teacher, and him teaching me how to get through the the traps when you
Mm.
move forward. And I learned that this type of experience is called the tulku, when you're reborn after going through this process where you've released attachment to the cycle, but you decide to come back anyways to assist people. And I remember doing that, and I remember picking my mother, comparing her to several other families and the development that I would receive in them to support my path. I remember a small soul group and us having conversations of what we are going to do on the family, and then a larger soul group and us deciding to, go down and be pillars in society. And some of these people are the people that are around me that I've been regularly helping for 20 years.
Mm.
That have been coming to allow me to assist them to be this kind of wonderful person in society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that everything is about what we do, because if you remember, and I'm sure you and everyone listening remembers, what it's like to hold a baby in your arms, and it doesn't matter who they are, what they're going to do, just the experience of being in their presence is awe. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolute awe and breathtaking,
Mm-hmm.
and fills your being with wonderment and a joy and a presence that is something you can barely even communicate to others, and it makes you want to be around them a bit more because you feel what you've lost of that,
Mm.
or I should say what has been blurred of that, because we never really lose it,
Mm-hmm.
you know and it can be a really good reminder to be fully present in the moment and just emanate our presence on the planet, and that essentially that is enough, without even doing extra. But if you do extra, that's even better.
Yes, yes, ma'am. It sure
Yeah.
is. It sure is. Alrighty, so let's just last question about your practice, and then I'd like to move into the other areas we spoke about. So today, when you have somebody come to see you professionally, what is the percentage of Dr. Wayne, the Chinese medical doctor, and what percentage is it my dear friend Jeanette, who's freaking incredible and multidimensional? How does that figure in your day-to-day practice?
um I would say that I've always been me and doing what I'm doing, and that these things just gave me extra knowledge and tools and understanding, and that's not something that I can remove, unless I choose to, right? If I choose to forget something or not pretend I don't know something, but I'm not artificial. Like what I've done, the work that I've done, the studies that I've taken on are all just adding to what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just now just without the licensing, I just can't call something a certain thing or provide that particular structure. But because I've always been doing my own thing, I'm just doing my own thing, but I have that extra understanding. So it might help me to explain something to someone, or it might help someone to go, oh, this particular tool could help me for these reasons, and understand it on an intellectual way, which may help assist their reception of it if they've undergone a lot of brainwashing or conditioning,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and aren't fully aware of their yes and no responses in their energy field. And I'm still helping them with that. It could give them, like, oh, I'll be like, okay, well, you can look up the function of this herb online that I'm intuitively selecting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is someone comes in and I just give them a scan up and down, and I can feel what the most prominent resonant thing is for them. I'm one of those people that, or I shouldn't say one of those people, the way that I am is that I'm here with this humble service to provide people with care. And I'm very efficient at finding the point of the diamond that is the exact cause of what's going on for them, and telling them exactly what to do to fix it based on resonance.
Mm, mm. Beautiful. And how wonderfully you do it. So let's now move on to the more the rarer subject matter.
Okay.
Not that you're not a rarity, that is completely understood, but um,
The less traveled conversations.
the less traveled converse. Thank you. Thank you for rescuing me there. All right. So let's go back once again to the beginning. And as you were this beautiful young intuitive, spiritual child, there were also some very sinister machinations and intentions and actions executed around you. So we know that there were multiple abductions. So, in your own words, um, go for it.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember feeling senses of danger and feeling senses like experiences were missing, almost like if I'd had been similar to having a daydream from a nap or something, and then coming out of it and it's not finished, or there's something missing, or you forget what it is, but you know what happened. I would have those kinds of experiences, and um, uh, sometimes I would even have like full crisp memories of what happened, like for parts of the drugging and abductions that were happening. Like, for example, I remember someone holding my eye open and shining a flashlight at me to see if I was conscious or dead or pretending or whatever. And it didn't make sense.
Mm.
I'd be like, Mom, did I go to the doctor or the hospital? She'd be like, no, you know, like things like that were happening, or did Daddy come in last night? No. And so I started to understand that there was something else going on. And uh, there was a particular occurrence where I was finishing the teacher's words in class when he was teaching, completing their sentences. And I learned that at that time, teachers had to report a child that was psychic.
Mm.
Because it was considered a point of interest or a threat or a risk. I'm not quite sure the exact details, but that it was required to report a child that was psychic at that time in Canada.
Mm.
And so then I have memories of spending long periods of time in rooms with groups of people, mostly young people, um, and being put in front of screens and then taken individually into rooms and tortured. It would be called breaking the person, and I remember being the attempts to break me, and at times even there'd be like a short window where I would feel broken, or I would pretend to be broken so they would stop doing what they were doing. I learned how to fake it to reduce the damage. Um, Also, a little later, I remember experiences of operations of gene editing. I remember seeing suits of clones that were hanging in rooms. I remember seeing experiences with alien abductions, um, taking my DNA to clone new species. The stories could go on and on and on, but more recently, since I've become aware of what's going on, and no, I'm no longer in denial.
Mm.
Um, what has happened is that as I started to have people come in with, say, for example, an implant in them, and I would needle it, and I would stop, I'd stop it from working. And then I started noticing that the incidence of strange occurrences was increasing. For example, waking up and finding an incision on my arm, or incisions in my head, or a needle bruise in my arm, or bruises on my legs for no reason. Um, uh, Even for periods of time, I would suddenly realize that it was like 1 or 3 months later than the last memory I had.
Mm.
And you know, when it would happen, there was this weird kind of confusion and acceptance.
Mm.
Like, oh, that's what it's like here on the planet.
Mm.
Like I understood fully what was going on, and I'm like, that's the way life is right now. And then the other part of me being like, what the heck happened, and the injustice of it, and the anger and rage, and just being like, none of that is helping me. I don't want my body to feel awful
Mm-hmm.
with with that being my whole experience on the planet. And so as the tyranny increased, and the frequency of the attacks and the severity of the attacks, leaving me regularly in the past couple of years with uh, near fatal bleedings, for example, um, mutilation to organs and tissues, uh, that I was very fortunate to be in a situation where I could achieve enough healing to stop the bleeding through my knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine and self care and quantum energy healing techniques. So, for example, there was one time where I'd taken a whole bunch of herbs and it had reduced the situation, but I'd assessed it was so severe that if I hadn't have um, done what I did, I would have died or end up in surgery and hospital, and probably dying in that surgery. It was so severe, like, or ended up with like a permanent catheter, or um, bowel bag or something, because the damage to my abdominal region was, and my urinary area, etc., was so severe that it required surgery, but my tissues weren't healthy enough. They were falling apart so much inside that all I could do was quantum heal it. And so I would just believe that it was perfectly well. And on occasion, I was able to get it to completely subside and continue to take the herbs until my vibration could support that structure being there, and then reduce the frequency of the herbs because the bleeding started to reduce.
Okay, so just in case anyone out there is doubting that this is occurring and that you are actually able to quantum heal yourself, uh, can you talk a little bit about the huge amount of documentation and X-rays and MRI evidence, etc., that you have accumulated?
Yeah, well, I've been taking notes. This is something I encourage others to do as well, because you never know when there's going to be, um, group lawsuits. Hopefully, the focus can be more on change in laws, because this must be a huge expense. And it must be a huge expense for the government, and it must be a huge expense to people and their health and well-being, and increase the death rate and suicide rate and mental health hospital costs, etc. Hopefully, it will eventually increase enough that, with enough people pursuing their legal rights, that it will reduce the occurrence.
Oh,
Um, but in the meantime, people need to know how to increase their well-being and deal with the complications. And the common things there is that there's infection or bleeding, or chemical pollution in their brain,
mhm,
or trauma that's accumulating, causing symptoms itself.
mhm.
To get back to the direct part of your question a little bit more, can you just remind me?
Well, I just wanted to know where that, where's it all coming from? Where at this point, um, we were talking about whether people believed you or not with your
All
quantum
right, right.
healing and the proof that you have.
Yeah, okay. So, for example, I've received X-rays that were private, that showed that there were pins and wires and little circles in me that were commonly indicated in areas where people had other types of implants or metal screws or rods in their body by the glowing white pattern. um, or that there's also in some of the x-rays, it was as if a section was applied over it, or in one group of x-rays that I got, it showed two different dates, one after the other. So there's been mistakes, unfortunately, that have been very revealing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Several implants in my brain and abdomen. I actually have way more. Some of them grow out sometimes. Sometimes there's these little groups of four little tiny magnetic balls that will come up to the surface of my skin, especially after I take an antiparasitic herb. And I'll just scratch my skin, and then I'll be pulling these four little balls out that are, magnetic because they're sticking together. Or uh, I'll scratch my skin somewhere, and there'll be like a little pocket of infection, and I'll pull out a rigid material, and sometimes it's a rigid material like a glue, and sometimes I'll pull on it. I can feel it's attached to a wire in my body. I can feel the wire shredding my tissues as I give it a tug, and I'm like, okay, we're just going to leave that there for now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, um,
All, all horrific.
yeah. So I have luckily, some information. For example, one CAT scan revealed that I have a shunt in my body, and there's no reason I should have a shunt in my body because I haven't had any Western medical studies that or tests that should indicate a shunt.
Mm. Oh boy. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. Your family, your father was in the military, and
Actually, my stepfather was.
sorry, stepfather, yeah.
My grandmother was an army sergeant. My grandfather was a Navy Marine, and both of them received honors. And my step father received Purple Heart, and one of my cousins and my step uncle, both are Army and Navy. And you were mentioning a question about Eastern Star, and my it's in my family. Like some of my family members do go um, to those meetings,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I remember going to some of them with them, and then saying I didn't want to go because I would get a bad feeling about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe that some of the work that happens in those is in some of the stages is good,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's part of what keeps people going, is like, oh, we're doing something good for community and society with all
Yeah.
this work.
Yeah.
But then some of the underground cult things that are happening are quite frightening.
Oh yeah. So now this has been going on consistently for many, many years since you were a child. And with all that you have divined, with all that you know, with all that you can see, who's doing this?
Well, one of the reports that I made, because I believe it's important to report this, um, for the accumulation of the information compiling in their files.
Hmm.
One of the reports that I made, I got a letter back from the RCMP, or at least I believe it was from the RCMP. It might have been a doctored letter, saying that the incidents that I reported, I'm ad libbing this, made up the exact quote, but it's as much as I can close to what was in the letter. The incidents that I had reported, that they had found that it was a governing body they cannot regulate. And it's my understanding now that that's not legal, because the RCMP has investigated into government operations. So that's something that it's, again, it's a technical thing. It's in my slide cart. I think it's important to compartmentalize when this is going on, because if I spend all the time in the wounds of this and the trauma of it and the horror of it, and let that body, weigh me down or become the mass amount of my experience, I don't believe I would be anywhere near as effective as if I go, this is part of human life and where we're at on this part of the planet right now, and looking at the bigger evolution of, alien species interactions and the history of humanity and the future of humanity, and go, oh, we're not that evolved and we're still progressing.
Okay, that's very important. I just want to go back a little bit into the scenarios of how this actually looks in your life. So you have recounted to me personally many, many instances of impersonation where friends, including myself, have doubles, and you're lured into cars, you're taken, you're drugged, you're in other you're in apartments that look like your place, but they're not because you've noticed a tiny detail, your pets, your partner, etc. However much you care to tell us about that, please go ahead.
Well, since I'm not in denial anymore, I'm noticing things more.
Mm,
And what I'll notice is that sometimes I'll have an association of, like, oh, this is my place. The diploma with the fold on it here is my home.
mhm,
Then 2 or 3 days later, I won't see it, and I'll go, that wasn't my home,
mm,
because this is my home. And so they actually will try to modify your thought and your beliefs and your experiences through non-local weapons and through mind control with devices and implants. And so it's very important to also view that as an experience and keep, as much as you can, a clear observation of what's going on without getting emotional or worked up about it. I'm not saying don't feel. I'm just saying, like, not getting like overly worked up about it, because um, that energy needs to be very refined and focused in order for you to function, to survive this. It's an extremely life-threatening, dangerous thing to have happening to someone. Just someone could go into shock just alone from one realization. For example, on my on the doors in my place, I noticed that the nameplates of the type of lock that's on the door, there'll be like Mead or there'll be like Stanley on the lock switch plate, like the protector plate that goes over the locking mechanism that slides into the door,
mm,
and that it um, actually will be a different one than I had seen 2 days ago. And that can be done through a simulated reality experience,
mm.
and it can be done through actual physical locations. And then also, I've tried to very gently um, inform some people that they have doubles of themselves and that they may want to pursue legally. They may want to obtain their privacy record
Mhm.
and persist standing up for their rights, or at least start to take notes in case at some point this becomes a lot easier to counter with something like, a group law change or something.
Yeah, and to be clear to everyone out there, this is still going on, isn't it?
Yeah, regularly, often. In fact, even the other day, I was in the hospital to document more and to have some of the physical complications addressed and noted down and have some more tests done. And I achieved with the symptoms that were so big that I was given a CAT scan of my torso and of my head because the symptoms from the abductions were so many that the doctor instantly provided it for me because it was so severe. And I didn't make anything up. I didn't guide the discussion in a certain way. I just said, this is what's going on, and these are some of the things that are going on. And he was like, oh my God, like, quick, we better take care of this, or at least like make sure you're okay, like very quickly, because this is, my life. In that circumstance, it's like your life is in their hands, and they're the one responsible, even though it's not the way it is. You're responsible too and need to speak up for yourself. But luckily I crossed paths with somebody that really wanted to help. And I was told that there was nothing wrong with me through their tests, and even just a CAT scan that I had shown, had done, a month and a half earlier, showed all kinds of complications. And I know exactly what kind of complications are in my body would show up on a CAT scan from that kind of test. For example, rectal tearing and, rectal tearing, like not anus, but rectal tearing, like up inside the tissues, and tons of scar tissue and infection and fluid pockets. And I even got told that there was no iron test done. And then I got another person to go print off my information from blood work before I left. After that person had left, I grabbed another person. I was like, please, like, I've been told that I have OPP by the OPP, that I have police reports missing. Whether or not those the actual OPP or not, I don't know. Whether or not I actually have police reports missing, I don't know. But I was told that. And, so I said that to this assistant. I said, I need whatever records you can give me from my visit here now on paper, please. And he went and printed it up, and it showed that iron testing had been done. And I'd just been told that iron testing wasn't done. It was something that they don't do in the hospital, that would take 2 days to show up, which is incorrect. Like, how could a hospital function waiting 2 days for an iron test in severe situations, like emergency? That doesn't make any sense. And so, but I'm not there to argue. I'm there to document and get as much information as I can. And I did that. And I asked him, I said, okay, can you write down that you didn't do iron tests and that you didn't find anything? And I'm like, okay. And he went and did it. And he brought back the paper, and he grabbed the old one out of my hand that he had given me, which was like a couple pages with like basic summary on it, ripped it up and put a new one in my hand with those few types sentences added to it. And then I got this extra information from the other person that counteracted part of what he had written. And when he handed it to me, you could tell he was just like, either like, you're a pain in the butt, or that's, like, I'm almost angry at you. Like, here you go. Like, it's done now. Leave me alone. I gotta go, And so it's really important to stay calm, not react, and to obtain what you need. And also to inform the people, I have implants in my body. You're required to report them. And I am required by law as a victim to have my health assessed thoroughly through tests to show what's in my body. I'm a victim, and I have a right to these tests. And, keep in mind that if you do that you may have to endure more of what you're going through. Because from my experience, the louder you are, the more you may have something happening. But you have to wait till you're ready to stand up for yourself that way. Because that in itself puts an energy field around you that reduces the severity of occurrences. And people will say to me, but like, Jeanette, you're this person. How could this be happening to you? And I'm like, well, I have a human body.
Yeah.
I'm in this dimension with you.
Yeah.
Just because I can sometimes like sense that it's bad for me to go out and I might wait a half an hour and pick different timing and avoid something. One time,
Mm.
really bad feeling, and I went into the bathroom in my place and I grabbed my dog and I hid behind the toilet because it was cold. I felt like this is where I should hide. And that was before I knew that they used thermal cameras and x-ray panels on the wall in the unit next to you, and screens next to you to penetrate the walls to find your location in your unit, and to study and observe you. It was before I knew that. And then I heard my door get broken into, and I heard large boot step prints go into my place. And then I heard them leave, and I got up. And when I looked outside my door I guess before they were fully gone, I saw boots outside my door, big like workman's boots outside my door. And I was like, what's going on here? And the next day, my supposedly my landlord called me and said, oh, we're going to have this person come in to see what other doors you have in your place. I was like, I don't have the other doors in my place. What had happened is I had rented the unit next door and gone into that bathroom, and I was still working on getting that place clean and ready to expand my clinic, and
Mm.
that bathroom and hid, and they couldn't find me
Mm.
to drug and abduct me.
Mm.
And so those kinds of things are, just the types of things that you have to deal with this type of existence on the planet. Like, this is happening everywhere. Like, this isn't just me. It is personal, but it's also not, because um, you know, uh, look at what's happening with the number of deaths everywhere, and the number of disease, and the number of people in mental health hospitals claiming these types of things, that are getting told that they're crazy and getting psychological diagnoses, saying that they have,
Mm.
paranoid schizophrenia, when actually they may, but it may be from what's happening to them, or they may not. They may actually be speaking the truth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so um, let's pivot here just a tiny bit. So these, you say that you see individuals who are doing this. Now, you say also that it is an organization, et cetera, et cetera. Um, is this organization, to your knowledge, because you're saying that these are humans that are coming and doing this to you. However, I would posit that this organization is not just uh, terrestrial. You want
That's
to?
my experience, and I would agree with that. For example, there are times where I feel like, how could it be physically possible for a human to fit into this suit?
Hmm.
Like, all one time, I was talking to one of my landlords outside, and he turned his head, and there was a ripple, like a silicone hood was on him to make him look like my landlord.
Mm.
And other times I would notice that, like, the ear, ear attachment was different, or the shape of the nose was slightly different, or the profile was slightly different. And
Hmm.
I think that's like, or that there'd be like a nose surgery, or like a line here, like someone's had a fake nose end put on. And these are things that when I was seeing them, I was like, am I really seeing this? Like, is this really what I'm witnessing? Because it's so hard to believe
Mm.
that someone would go to this extent. And also, I had the experience of sitting in front of someone I was talking to, and seeing the attempt to lay a visual overlay of the person's face over their face in my visual field.
Mm. Yeah,
So
that's not human technology.
an attempt to That's right. It's developed in work with alien species, in my opinion. Um, and so creating an overlay of my experience and me being able, like, because I'm more clear, I can go, no. And there's been times where I've been speaking to someone and I'll see that they have dragon eyes or,
Mm.
or snake eyes, for example. Um, there's times of I remember waking up on a table being operated on and seeing two really tall beings and two other really tall beings. And the first two seemed like they were humans in suits to look like grays, and the last two seemed like actual grays.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I understand that they do that. They play tricks on people and yeah, they wear costumes, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so um, I have to be very careful with this information for people because one, I don't want to reduce any security risk in the country from someone else who might want to wipe our country out or something like that. But I also believe that this is the kind of thing where I don't really even know how much that is so much of a risk with
Hmm.
this kind of viewing of everyone's privacy and the violation of it, and tracking on everyone's phones and of everyone's thoughts. That really doesn't seem like it's much of a risk, and that the bigger risk is actually something that's very expensive and doesn't make sense. It's in my opinion, an extreme psychological disorder, and a very disillusioned society, group, or organization that would even agree to pay to have this done to people and fund it, and that they couldn't possibly know what they're really doing and actually see it in a clear way, or they wouldn't be able to sleep at night, or that they're getting a false understanding of the fueling that they're getting from the evil dark energy, so to speak.
Hmm.
But sometimes when someone is in and this could be human or other beings, sometimes they get distorted and they believe that that is energy when and it's making them stronger when they feel their energy go up and strengthen from negative energy that
Hmm.
they've taken from someone, but actually it's a false weak structure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Positive energy and positive occurrences give a much stronger, more beneficial energy.
I was going to say where I was going with all of this duplication of your home, of other places that you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's all pointing to this huge cost and hugely complex operation. And this, you touched on the infringements upon our privacy, et cetera, through all of these devices, and now with these data centers, et cetera, et cetera. This seems to be an all-pervasive reality
Can I,
that
can I
that
add, can,
are, yeah, go ahead, please. Yep.
if you could hold that thought, and I could just
Sure.
add one part to it, just because while we're on the topic,
Yep.
I believe that even probably cloning happens at conception, because I remember,
Yeah, for sure.
I remember holding my twin in the womb, and then there wasn't one,
Oh, my goodness.
you know. So as you were saying,
Yeah, so this whole idea of um this infringement upon our human rights, our privacy, etc., as my dear friend Dr. Amir would say, the mighty human. This is it's out of control. It's way beyond what we know from what you're saying to us. If everything that you're saying to us is true, then there is so much more that we are yet to uncover. And, disclosure of Oh, there are from people from other worlds walking among us. That is like kindergarten next to what we are going to learn about what the disdain, the machinations, the absolute loathing and control, manipulation, and domination of humanity that we have endured for so long, and how prevalent it is in our society. And is there anything you want to add to that?
Um, that this is what you're saying is true, and it may even be very challenging and possibly even cause when a person goes into this, they may have a
Cognitive
type of
dissonance.
a breakdown when you fully accept the depth of even part of this, and it's only the tip of the iceberg that we are seeing.
Yeah.
And um, keep in mind that there's multiple dimensions and there's multiple multi-universes,
Of course.
and that to a certain degree there's also the aspect that we are in a simulation
hmm
um, as well. But the simulation is not the way we see it as electronic. It's much, much more like our version of electronic simulation, and those types of things is much more like there's beings trying to jump into people. There's there's all kinds of things going on that um, that
hmm
it's the kind of thing where you go, okay, well, you know, you look up the night sky, and are you really looking up at the night sky? Often I'll see the moon or the sun, and it's hanging in the clouds. And I'm like, I'm not looking at the real sun or the real moon right now. And once you see that, you're out of the illusions.
Yeah, exactly.
You're out of the illusions enough that you can allow yourself to see more. But it's very important to look at it as where we're at in our factor, like our spot on the universe, and to try to get yourself into higher vibrational states where you're the you're not someone who's being chased and attacked. There's someone that has a bad misunderstanding that's trying to do something to you, but that's their stuff. It has nothing to do with you. You're not doing anything wrong. You let go of your guilt and shame about it, and do not see yourself as a weak, attacked individual. See yourself as somebody that is really bright and maybe attracting some flies. No offense to flies and their beautiful work that they do for decomposition on the planet.
Yes, of course. Um, we're we've gone well past an hour now. I don't want to exhaust you, but this is, and I think you and I both know that we can talk about this for another 3 hours without without duplicating anything that we talk about. So I just want to wrap up with a few things here. So your journey through this consistent life of abductions, torture, implants, manipulation, etc., etc. There was a time when you were in denial about it, and you mentioned that, and that you've now moved into acceptance, which has given you the strength that you now can advocate actually for others who are doing this while this is concurrently going on with you, which is extraordinary valor. I mean, your grandfather may have gotten a Purple Heart, but honey, I think you deserve a whole, a dozen Purple Hearts, if not more. Can you talk also just briefly?
Mm-hmm.
You said, of course, it's not anybody's fault, etc., etc. But I'm also of the awareness that nothing happens ultimately without our agreement on a soul level, perhaps in a different timeline, in a different bloodline,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. What I tell people is that just because you agreed to be here and these things occur on the planet right now doesn't mean you occurred for these things to happen.
Hmm.
So these are natural occurrences on the planet right now, or synthesized occurrences on the planet right now. Um, and that it's just part of where we're at. And if you're coming into these dimensions and these realities to do work on the planet, that it's just a part of it. And that the more that we vision that it isn't and doesn't have to be, the more we'll shift it. And that the more that we reach out and communicate about it, we start to heal these internal wounds and increase people's vibrational well-being of being like, no, this doesn't need to occur. This is inefficient. That it does even affect the very beings doing it. And I believe that we are all one light body, one being, and that we're here to shift this on the planet. And we're doing it through an agreement with the elements, and that we're here to create this change, and it can take billions of years, and that's okay, because I remember being in other beings and other segments of universes, being some other great big being, and different lifetimes that billions of light years ago and away.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and so um I'm here to start to assist that change, as well as other people have been. And I'm not here to damn the people that are doing this. I'm here to assist them to evolve. And I could say the word people, being beings, being human, non-human, because I believe we're all hybrids anyways.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Who knows, with all the experiments that have been done on me, who knows how much of my DNA is human anyways.
Hmm.
I remember experiments being done where I had webbing and gills that they took out, and crying when I was a little kid when they took my gills out, you know? And when I spent a lot of time swimming in the lake, I developed extra webbing in my fingers, because my body's responding to the memory and the experience and the water.
Mm.
So who
Mm.
knows? Um, the takeaway that I'd like people to know is that um, you will always find a way to get done what your mission is, one way or another, even if you have to come back.
Mm.
And so try not to live in fear, and
Mhm.
try not to let this poison you. Try to keep yourself and the ones around you dear, as nourished with love and support, and maintain connectivity with people as much as you can that is good for you. Don't let people put their stuff on you. Don't let their fear or disbelief about what's happening injure your own knowing or your own voice.
Mm.
Just choose perhaps to go a different direction, and you may only be able to find people online that know about it. You may not be able to find anyone directly around you, but if you're open to it, those people will come to you.
Mm. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so to start wrapping things up, I wanted to talk to you about an idea. And I mentioned this in the opening that you are here to provide hope, but we often cling to hope, which has its place. However, hope can imply something, a verdict, suggesting something essential is missing, that the present isn't enough, that we need rescuing or a better future. And it divides reality into a flawed present and a redeeming future. Um, and it can make one's life feel like a failure, that something is lacking, etc., etc. So when we let go of this structure, we find neither despair nor optimism, but a presence without compromise. So this notion beyond hope, some call this trust, others call it knowing, others call it being. We're very limited in the English language. Um, the difference, I think, is practical. Hope waits for circumstances to align, and what lies beyond it has always been present, but only delayed by the habit of hoping. So, what do you think about that, considering this history that you have so graciously and lovingly shared with us?
Well, I think perhaps the Western language needs a new word for the evolution of hope, because we are evolving and new languages need to be developed and new words,
Mm.
or new associations with words, because hope, as I understood it previously, was like looking up to the potential of something improving, and that it you're right about what you say, and also that it's an increase in a vibrational state when hope is applied, and that's the important part of that, and that can be achieved with a positive belief. And it does, we can associate the word hope with it, but it's actually the positive belief that is resonant, that
Mm,
increases the vibrational state.
mm.
And that if effort or stable belief is put into it, that will have manifestation of occurrences. And if we don't, that means we're probably going the wrong direction, and that it's better to invest that positive energy in something that is more resonant. And it can change. It can change from time to time. And it's important to not be too fixed, but to be very steadfast with those positive vibrations in your body, and to stabilize them and find different ways with self-care and megahertz sounds and subliminal messages. Use all these tools for your benefit.
Absolutely. So ultimately, what you're saying is it's all about our belief systems and how these realities have been woven into our reality, and how we can apply choice to move beyond this concept of just hope, which implies a possible defeat, to actually shift one's energy and one's frequency to not attract those things, or and to heal and to actually um, contribute to a collective shift. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
Well, my friend, you've been a wonderful teacher for many, many years for me. So I'm very honored that I got that. I heard you. So thank you so, so much. I would like to finally ask you, what would you say to anyone out there? I mean, you went through a little bit of a suggestion of what to do, etc. But for those who are particularly feeling vulnerable in this situation, which is far more pervasive in our society, and I'm talking globally, than we would like to believe. So, for that person, what would you tell them? First steps, and ultimately, how can they find you?
Well, you can look me up online by my name, Jeanette Wayne. You can look me up by image. You can look me up on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. I have a little bit of information there. Mostly, I do private work. Um, my website is www.thejoyclinic.com. And you can look that up. I'm downtown Toronto. I'm sure if you ask around, someone will know of me. I'm very fortunate to be a word on many people's tongues, um,
Mm-hmm.
that I've co-created beautiful changes with
Mm-hmm.
in society and in their lives, through their desire to feel better or be better.
Absolutely.
And uh, um, you know, I have probably, I'd say I've been, you know, been on TV and been written up in hospital newsletters and things like that. But a lot of that is not the first thing that comes up on the web. I would say my website is probably one of the first things that comes up on an internet search with my
Oh, yeah.
name.
We'll put all the links and everything in the bottom of the video too, so people can find you that way.
Okay.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, if someone's really having a lot of physical health problems, complications from this, to see a traditional Ayurvedic or Tibetan or Chinese medicine practitioner, or someone that they've seen really good results in other people from. But it doesn't mean that sometimes maybe an antibiotic or a painkiller from Western medicine might not assist you. It's okay to utilize whatever tools are assisting you, but obviously, you know, natural is healthier for you as far as like the long term.
Mm-hmm. 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 Of course. Of course.
Mhm.
And to just to finish off, if there is somebody out there, what would you say to them tonight that
Say I'm sending you a big hug and lots of love and your beautiful, bright, brilliant light on this planet. And
Mhm.
don't ever, ever give up or let go of that, because nothing can tarnish that. Even your death and change of the physical body, it can never change. You will always be you. You'll always be pure, and you'll always be a light on this planet. And in these experiences and in your evolution, you'll always be a giant ball of glowing light with beautiful vibrations and emanations and occurrences coming from your existence.
Oh, my darling Jeanette, as are you, one of the brightest lights I know. Thank you for your courage, for your
My,
honesty,
thank you for your time.
and for turning something so hard into a lifeline for others. It has been an honor to hold this with you, my friend.
Thank you. Same here.
All right, everyone. Till next time.
the takeaway that I'd like people to know is that you will always find a way to get done what your mission is, one way or another, even if you have to come back.
Mm.
And so try not to live in fear, and
Mm-hmm.
try not to let this poison you. Try to keep yourself and the ones around you dear, as nourished with love and support, and maintain connectivity with people as much as you can that is good for you. Don't let people put their stuff on you. Don't let their fear or disbelief about what's happening injure your own knowing or your own voice.
Mm.
Just choose perhaps to go a different direction, and you may only be able to find people online that know about it. You may not be able to find anyone directly around you, but if you're open to it, those people will come to you.